Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about chapter 7 called Navigation. This is a really interesting chapter because it not only speaks to how and which to steer within the flow, right, of this new way of thinking. It also talks about how the terrain has changed, if you will. So just imagine that you're a seasoned kayaker and you're going to go kayak on the river, but you usually do it like midsummer. But now you're doing it in the spring after all the rains have come, or maybe some of the rains are still coming. And so the river's a bit more choppy, a bit more swift. There are a few more issues in which to navigate through, right, that are different. Well, the chapter kind of talks about how this is happening right now, right? We're in the springtime of the river right now because things are not, they're changing with all the shifts that are occurring. And like it or not, everybody's going through this. And what the book I Am the Word is trying to do is give us a heads up in order to help us navigate these changes in a more smoother, effective way, right? So there's that. And then there's just the natural desire to awaken, right? And both processes bring with it a change in purview, a change in the way of looking at things. But you have to be on board with this, right? You have to actively agree to change. And sometimes you have to pursue the change on your own, right? Or the navigation doesn't go so smoothly. So the first thing we're going to talk about is that we really did kind of speak about is the consciousness and how individually some of us are being called to it. Therefore, we picked up the book, and then as well as the global consciousness is changing. Mainly, because of the shifts that are occurring, what's going on in the world, right? Mother Earth, her energy is lifting, right? And so we're called to raise our consciousness because we are one with Gaia. So it's happening whether we like it or not, okay? And so we're just going to speak about the different things that we need to engage in order to navigate all these changes. And one of them is separation, right? And it's becoming aware of both individually and globally. How do I participate in separation? And this is a real tricky, or it can be a real tricky change in which to embark on because, again, consciousness. We have been programmed, and sometimes we are unconsciously creating separation through our purview, through the way we've been raised. And so it's very important to be open, right? And so they kind of give us like examples of religion in here. And so, as you know, I was raised Catholic. And so I'll speak of my experiences of how I inadvertently, through my programming, created separation, And I would see that and I would be questioning it. In the book, clearly is telling you the guides are clearly telling us that if I am in any kind of religion, homeowners association, a better school, do you see all these terms that we do? We strive because we're buying into separation. And we tell ourselves that we're doing this to better ourselves. But the new consciousness and the new way that's coming in forth is trying to tell you that if we're all one and we, our purview must be that of being responsible for all that you see around you, because everything is a viable creation of your creator, of your divine, as well as you. So you're not so special. You're all one special, right? So think about this, really ponder, kind of make a list of areas that you inadvertently create separation, and how, and this is the beginning, right? These are the pioneer days, right? This is the awareness. Oh, wow. And then go forth and do what you can to create change. Now, getting in there and change, going there and say it's not going to be this way, that's just going to create a lot of resistance from the other side, right? This is done very subtly, and it's done through love, and it's done through example, right? So marinate in that. It's not about writing the signs up and going and picketing or whatever, because this is about creating ripple effects within the consciousness, ripple effects within the wavelengths, right? In school, when we're getting an education, we are educated about micro and macro. So right now I'm speaking to you on a micro level, change your consciousness, change your purview. That's where you're being, right? We're not asking you to do, we're asking you to be the love. And that's when you start seeing everything as one. Okay. I know this could sound like kind of malarkey is she talking about, but practice it. Practice it. The more you practice it, the more you become aware of the subtle changes that go around your space, your area within, and then you'll start to see, and it's so subtle, it's so important for you to be aware. You'll start to see within the wavelengths on a macro level some of your fruits of your labor come in. But I'm not talking about doing, I'm talking about the consciousness of being love. Okay. Now let's look at it on a macro level. And a great example would be what's going on over in the Middle East at this moment with Hamas and the fact that the Palestinians are devastated and they need foreign aid to get to them. And a lot of the aid workers have been, collateral damage, accidents. Oh, well, it's war, right? Okay, that is the consciousness that we want to change, right? Nothing ever solved anything by creating more war, right? And that's an old paradigm. And those are my words, and that's how I think. and I've always been told in my naive way that love will not prevail, that I was crazy, and that, well, the old paradigm of the United States of America is always to be armored up, always to be on the offense, so that when this occurs, you're ready and you can nip it in the bud. But that kind of energy isn't working anymore. And that's the shifts that are changing right now. And humanity is slowly coming into this just isn't working, right? But we still have the beloveds, and we're all one, right? We are all one. We are one with Hamas. We're one with Netanyahu, right? Okay. So that's quite a quandary. It's quite a quandary. Well, these beloveds are stuck in the old paradigm, right? And sometimes when these shifts occur, like what's going on, it makes people even more crazier, right? Just so that it doesn't matter who gets slaughtered in the meantime. Our goal is to wipe Hamas out. It doesn't, do you see what I'm saying? The more the shifts occur, the more crazier people get, because they're so uncomfortable with the changes and they don't know how to deal with seeing it differently. They just don't think there's a possibility to see this differently. So, I've given you an example, and the book will clearly say you don't put up with bad behavior. So if you're in an abusive situation, you get out of it. You don't necessarily turn the other cheek physically. This is all on a conscious level. So you get yourself out of the situation, out into an environment in which you're safe, right? And you don't have to keep that other person in your circumference, right? But it's imperative that you see the abusers as one with you. And I know this is just like, what the totally different foreign, I'm speaking a foreign language, right? But these are the shifts that are happening right now. Right? This is what's going on, all because Gaia has raised her energy level. And we have to rise up to meet this, and in the process of it is a lot of chaos for those who are conscious and those who are unconscious. So let's go back to the name of the chapter, navigation. Okay? So we navigate through this in our knowing that when you see all of this devastation in front of you, you keep the high watch, right? Because it's imperative that your energy level stays up here, because that's what creates the wavelengths into the higher consciousness of the masses, of the macro, of the collective conscious, right? Okay. Any questions you have? Be sure and put them down on the comments section. Right. So, yeah, that was some serious separation, was it not? Okay, the next area we want to talk about in navigating is, and I've spoken about this earlier, and now I've revisited this part, and I'm not sure that, each time you read this, you come to the table with a different consciousness or a different level of awareness, right? And so I spoke of being the conduit in the past. And what I'm learning is that is the old paradigm, right? Nothing wrong with it. It's just if you've elevated your energy or your frequency level, you are no longer the conduit, right? You're no longer the messenger. You are the divine, right? You are a viable part of the divine. And that is a game changer because you show up differently, right? You show up. It's the difference between being the messenger and actually being the one implementing the consciousness, right? So this really brings to the table the importance of due diligence, the importance of being committed to this, right? So if I know, like yesterday, I wanted to do this, but my energy level was down. Yeah, and I didn't want to bring to the table any, so I meditated, I reread the chapter, I did, for whatever reason, I can't really explain to you. It just wasn't there. Well, that's navigating, right? Because when I show up, I want to show up at the highest level of frequencies that I can, that is available to me at that moment, right? And so it does change your personality, because I know when I'm not at my best, the old paradigm of pettiness, it just comes in, and all of a sudden now I'm in a combative mood, and I know that is just not where I want to be, and I really don't want to be that way towards anybody or myself, right? So you can see the importance, because when I'm crunched, I know I'm kind of combative towards myself, because I'm striving for this higher consciousness. So, yeah, so much difference between doing and being, right? Doing by not being the conduit, being by being the divine, by being the light that shines on the circumstance. Hey, have you ever thought about looking at it this way? Right? Okay. So then the chapter also talks about another human paradigm, another creation of humanity, and that's damnation, right? And so any kind of, I want you to know that damnation is totally a human creation. It's created in by all these rules, say with an HOA. It's created with words like, and we're struggling right now. We can see where we go from too much, from one side to the other too extremely, right? But we're trying to change our vocabulary in some ways, and it's kind of not serving us, because I'll give you an example. We've got beloveds, right? And they are beloveds, but they are committing crimes. And right now, so this is what's happening in the shifts, right, of the consciousness. Right now, we know in our heart of hearts that we don't want to label this person as a criminal, right? So we're putting them in our system that's very, very flawed at the time, right now. And instead of arresting them and putting through the system, we're letting them free, to go free and come back. So what's going on is, you can see that we've gone way to the other side of the extreme, where law and order is becoming chaotic. And this is what's going to happen while we're navigating through this. And my point is, well, I've always said there wasn't enough rehabilitation going on. And yeah, and all of the, what do you want to call it? Labeling that goes on with anyone who makes a mistake, right? Oh, she's the one that got fired by that job. When some of us can tell us, when I got fired, that was the best thing that could ever happen to me, because man, I turned around and I got a better gig, right? We label over and over again. And so all of these shifts that are coming in the consciousness, right? We're aware of it. We're just not sure how we're going to navigate it so that the frequencies are up here, right? And in the process of it, it creates all this chaos. So what does that have to do with the damnation in us? On a micro level, meaning on a personal level, you are responsible for your projections. So if I go to a prison and I'm visiting prisoners, I don't want to know what they're in there for. I don't want to know why. I don't want to know anything about them. What I want to be able to do is to look them straight in the eye. And I want to be able to see the divine Christ in every one of them. And that's a possibility. The eyes are to the portal to the soul, right? That's just a given. Right? And that is just a physical example of what I want you to do about everything, everything. So now you're going up and you're paying a bill, and, or let's say you're at the DNV or the DPS, whatever state you're in, you're going to get your driver's license. And now you've got all this proof, but it's just not, your documentation just isn't good enough for this clerk on the other side. Been there, done that, waited 4 hours, and now you're telling me, and it really has to do with, and in your heart of the heart, it has to do with whatever clerk you got, right? Because this beloved is in their egoic power trip, because they can turn you away because they've got the power, and now you're in your egoic trip. Do you see how the clashing is? Because your documentation is right. Okay. So when you're in a situation like that, or any case, first of all, meditate before you go into embark on anything, right? Because you want your frequencies this high, right? Because the book has pointed out, when the vibrations are this high, it just organically brings up the lower vibrations. But if for 1 second I get all, what do you mean my documentation isn't right, right? Now I've plummeted the energy, right? Now I'm right there with him or her. So that's just an example of how we inadvertently create damnation. Okay. And a lot of it I've spoken to about projecting onto somebody else. That can happen on a personal level too. So I can wake up in the morning and wake up to 5 things that went wrong due to me making mistakes. And now I have to go revisit it and undo everything, and to avoid that self-deprecation on my part. Can't you do anything right? Do you see the damnation that I'm projecting onto myself, right? Or now somebody has said something rude to me about, oh, how scattered I am, whatever. That's their purview. And as you know it, we're all mirrors to each other. So that's merely coming from them, if they're able to see that, right? But that's up to me to realize this has nothing to do with me. And I needn't go feel bad and, oh, I don't bring any worth to the table. I'm all scattered and da, da. That's ridiculous, right? So I want you to look and ponder on areas of damnation, how you're creating that as you're navigating in this new, I want to call it the new terrain, the new cosmic terrain, the new consciousness that's happening. Okay. So we're going to go on page 218, this part, and we're going to visit this attunement that the guides have. We've got two of them going on. And the first one, this is about beloveds that you see, okay? I am moored through my intention to hold my brothers and sisters in high regard. I am moored through my intention to realize the perfection that is created in all men. I am moored through attitudes and personality traits I have developed in such a way that they will reflect my new awareness of my brother's divinity and the divinity that is inherent in all things. Word, I am moored through this intention. Word, I am moored. Do you see? When you're in that prison, you just regard that beloved in front of you as pure love, right? You do this with your attitude and your personality trait, right? I know when I'm feeling love, and I know when I'm feeling intentional, whatever, crunchiness. So I want to bring to the table love. Okay. Now here's another one. Go ahead and breathe into this. I am moored through my sister and brother. I am moored through the one before me. I am moored through Joe or Jane or Bill. I am moored through the one before me. Again, I've given you examples in the past of like speed dating and how I would break my groups up and we would, switch partner after partner. And we would say just this, right? Well, what I want you to do is go through your mind when you arrive at a beloved, whether you know him or not, you may not know him. I want you to hold them in your mind, look them straight in the eyes, and repeat this affirmation 3 times. Okay? So just know as we close this, and I want you to be kind to yourself because our programming goes deeper than we realize. And that becomes apparent when you really start doing this, But be gentle on yourself, but be very diligent with it. So when you go off track, don't self-deprecate or be judgmental or yada, just know, and then quickly do what you can. Use these affirmations, use these declarations, use these attunements, and just rest assured behind the scenes, the guides are doing the energy work necessary to help you, to assist you. Okay? Because the bottom line is you are aspiring to rise to the occasion that you are divine in action 24/7. So it's a word I am word through this intention to realize myself as word. Word I am word. You are the divine in action. Own that. You are the divine in action. So, dear divine, what is it that you're creating? Because this is just a given. You are. And so, as I go forward and I create, I ask myself this simple question. Am I creating in fear or am I creating in love? Right? And know that a lot of the rules and regulations and religions were created in fear. So if I'm using any of the old paradigms in my process, I'm in fear. This is a whole new level of consciousness because we're all one. We're all a viable part of this universe. Right? And so to damn yourself or to damn anybody else from these rules of the old paradigm plummet the vibrations. And that's all you have to think of, right? All you have to keep your eye on is this. This is where I want to be. No matter what's going on, no matter where, this is where I want to be. Okay? So I close for now. Thank you for joining me. Happy navigating. Please like this session below and please follow. I would be eternally grateful. And until next time, thank you very much. Bye.